The little girl wasn't staring at the toys in the corner of the diner. She wasn't watching the people laughing near the window. She was staring at the food. At a single plate of warm pancakes covered in syrup, steam rising in soft curls into the afternoon light. And her mother was trying to leave before anyone noticed. If you believe in kindness and second chances, take a moment right now to like, comment, share, and subscribe to the channel Whisper Tales 3. Stories like this remind us that even the smallest act of compassion can change a life. It was a bright Tuesday afternoon when sunlight poured through the wide glass windows of Maple Street Diner. Outside, the world looked hopeful. Cars rolled by lazily. Children walked home from school with backpacks bouncing against their shoulders, and the sky stretched wide and blue above the city. Inside, however, the air around one small corner booth felt heavy. Maricela Torres sat stiffly at the edge of the seat, her hands wrapped around an empty cup of water she had asked for 30 minutes earlier. Across from her sat her 6-year-old daughter, Anaya, whose dark curls framed a thin face that had grown sharper over the past year. Maricela's eyes moved constantly. Toward the counter, toward the door, toward the waitress balancing plates. She had counted her coins twice already. They weren't enough, not even close. Anaya hadn't complained. She rarely did anymore. But children cannot hide hunger with dignity. It shows in the way they swallow too often, in the way their eyes linger just a second too long on someone else's meal. At the booth behind them sat a man in a faded construction jacket, his broad shoulders bent slightly as he leaned over a plate stacked high with pancakes, eggs, and bacon. His name was Rowan Hale. A widowed father of one, he had come in after dropping his son at preschool, planning to enjoy a rare quiet breakfast before heading to his afternoon shift. He had not expected to notice anyone else, but he noticed the little girl. He noticed how she turned her head slowly, how her eyes locked onto his plate not with greed, but with silent longing. He noticed how her mother kept whispering something, her hand brushing gently over the child's knuckles, as if apologizing for something neither of them had control over. Maricela had once worked double shifts at a grocery store bakery. She had once been the woman who brought leftover pastries home at night. But after her husband passed unexpectedly from a stroke, medical bills swallowed their savings whole. The bakery cut her hours, rent climbed higher, and pride became the only thing she felt she still owned. She had promised herself she would never beg. That afternoon she had told Anaya they were just coming inside to rest their feet. It was hot outside, and they had walked nearly 2 miles after visiting yet another "we're not hiring" sign. She had hoped maybe she could stretch the water long enough to gather strength before leaving unnoticed. But children and food exist in a gravity too strong to resist. When Maricela realized her daughter's gaze had been caught, she felt a sting of shame burn her cheeks. She stood quickly, forcing a smile, whispering that it was time to go. She reached for Anaya's hand, trying to leave quietly before the waitress brought the bill she could not pay. Rowan saw the movement. Something in the mother's hurried posture, the fragile dignity in the way she held her head high, struck him harder than he expected. He thought of the year after his wife, Katerina, died in a car accident. The endless nights of trying to be strong for his son, Malik. The days when he skipped meals so Malik could have seconds. He remembered how invisible he had felt, how heavy pride can be when it is the only thing holding you upright. Without overthinking, Rowan stood. He didn't call out loudly. He didn't make a scene. He simply stepped toward the counter, paid his bill, and added another meal: pancakes, eggs, juice. Then he walked to the booth Maricela and Anaya had just left and gently placed the receipt on the table. Maricela froze when she saw him approach. Her first instinct was fear. Had she broken some rule? Had they noticed she couldn't pay? But Rowan's voice was soft, steady, almost awkward. He told her he had ordered too much food. He told her he hated wasting it. He told her it would mean more to him if someone enjoyed it than if it went cold. He never once mentioned her daughter staring. For a long second, Maricela's pride and desperation battled inside her chest. Accepting meant admitting need. Refusing meant walking back into the heat with a hungry child. She looked down at Anaya, whose eyes were wide now, not with longing but with cautious hope. The plate arrived, fresh and warm. Maricela's hands trembled as she sat back down. Anaya didn't rush. She looked at her mother first, silently asking permission. When Maricela nodded, the little girl took a careful bite of pancake, syrup dripping onto the edge of the plate. And then something miraculous happened. She smiled. It was not a big smile, not loud, but it was pure sunlight. Rowan returned to his booth but did not sit. Instead, he watched from a distance as the child ate slowly, savoring each bite. He felt something loosen in his chest that had been tight for years. When Maricela finished, she walked over to thank him. Her voice was steadier now, though her eyes glistened. She explained she had an interview across town later that week. She explained she hadn't meant for her daughter to stare. She explained more than she needed to, because sometimes gratitude spills over in explanation. Rowan listened. Then he did something even he hadn't planned. He told her the construction company he worked for was looking for a front office assistant. The pay wasn't much, but it was steady. He offered to give her the address. He offered to put in a word. Maricela blinked as if the world had shifted slightly on its axis. Days later, she stood in a small office with peeling paint but honest people. She answered questions with quiet confidence. She started the following Monday. The job was not glamorous. It involved filing paperwork, answering phones, and managing supply orders. But it meant regular paychecks. It meant groceries. It meant rent paid on time. It meant Anaya returning to school with a lunchbox that wasn't empty. Over the months that followed, Rowan and Maricela crossed paths often. Their children played together in the afternoons, sunlight stretching long across the dusty lot beside the office. Two families stitched together not by charity, but by shared understanding. Maricela never forgot that day in the diner. She never forgot how close she had come to walking away unseen. And Rowan never forgot the look on Anaya's face when she took that first bite. A year later, Maricela sat at the same diner booth, this time with a steady paycheck in her purse and a small envelope in her hand. When she saw a young mother at the counter counting coins with trembling fingers, she recognized the posture immediately. She paid for the meal quietly. She left the envelope under the plate with a note that read, "You are stronger than you know, because kindness, when given at the right moment, does more than fill a plate. It plants something, and that something grows." If this story touched your heart, please like, share, and comment below. Let us know where you're watching from and whether you've ever experienced a moment of unexpected kindness. And before we end, I have a special request. Comment the word hope if you believe even the smallest act of compassion can change someone's entire future. That bright afternoon in Maple Street Diner began with hunger and nearly ended with silent shame. But because one single dad chose to notice instead of ignore, two lives shifted course. In a world rushing past quiet suffering, sometimes all it takes is one person willing to look up from their own plate and see someone else's need. And in that simple human moment, second chances are born.